Okay, welcome back to the show. And now we're going into domestic matters. Later on, we'll get to a bit of colonial theory. But now we're getting into domestic matters. And we have the Aisha Huang charges that we're going to go through to understand what the charges mean and what is the potential. Before then, though, let's go to our social media people and see what text messages are coming about our cathedral talk. Let me begin with you, Eunice, first.
Okay, so coming from Enuma Entry. God bless you, Paul. Tell us how we can contribute with our quota to the building of this edifice to the glory of God. And then also coming from Sweetie Peter. God bless you, Paul. You are doing a good work. I always enjoy your show. Let no one trouble you, for you bear in your body the marks of Jesus. Continue with the truth, and God shall support you.
Okay, also coming from Odro David Donko Odro. Champ, welcome on my favorite TV program. Keep it up, bro. And from Aaron Babako Koko Misa, Queen Elizabeth II finally goes home. The Queen has finally responded to the invitation of her ancestors, the longest serving monarch in the history of our time. There is this common adage that death is a warning to the living, which stands to reason that for all royals, not excluding the commoners, death awaits every single soul. And which types of footsteps are we leaving behind for others to emulate? My point is that it's very sad and heartbreaking for a dignitary to leave his respective duties to go and plead for an invitation to attend the late Queen Elizabeth's funeral, while the king has already given out measures, that is, invitations to respective dignitaries.
Okay, so this one is coming from PCP. It says that it would be very nice to have a place like this cathedral to at least host some events like what the UK did. This one is coming from Khalid Eliken Toxla. He says that in 1066, how many countries even had robes? So Paul is saying because Westminster Abbey was built, that's how come the British were able to do all that they did. Let's be serious.
He disagrees. He says, as much as you try to use the Westminster Abbey to justify why Ghana also needs a cathedral, you fell short of telling us, your viewers, if they also encountered embezzlement and accountability challenges with the funds they raised for the construction of Westminster Abbey. Amino in Swam says, Paul, in fact, your analysis about the cathedral is really overwhelming. And Master Planner says, good evening, Mr. Paul and the team. What a solid history. Reading or learning is very crucial. The last time I checked, the propagandist Stubborn Academy has refused to read the book you recommended them the other time. Now, Shalom says, I am ashamed for some of the pastors speaking against the National Cathedral. God bless you, Paul.
Okay, so we are back on now. Let me quickly say hello. You're going to walk us through the facts of the Aisha Huang situation. First, though, let me get the viewers the facts of the matter. Am I wearing the right glasses now? Okay. All right, so the facts of the matter are as follows. Cameraman, you're blocking my view. Okay, so here are the facts. The facts are that on the 5th of May 2017, at about 12 p.m., officers of the Ghana Immigration Service, Obuasi Municipality Command, arrested 4 male Chinese nationals, namely Joa Xingzhen, etc. Their names are mentioned nicely, who were actively mining at an illegal mining site at Bepotente in the Amansia Central District of the Ashanti region. All right. Upon their arrest, the 4 Chinese nationals told the arresting officer that they were sent to mine at the site by the accused person herein, and the accused person herein, which is Aisha Huang, and their passports were with her in Kumasi. The arresting officer sent the 4 arrested persons first to the Obuasi office of the Ghana Immigration Service and subsequently to their Kumasi office. And Hong, who had received information about the arrest of her Chinese employees, proceeded to the regional immigration office, Kumasi, to find out if they had been brought there even before the arresting officers arrived in Kumasi. She left upon realizing they had not yet been brought to the Kumasi office. So that's interesting. So Aisha Huang got wind of the fact that her people had been arrested, and she boldly went to the Kumasi Immigration Central Office to demand to see their people. The Regional Immigration Office, Kumasi, called Aisha to report to the office with the passport of the 4 arrested miners, illegal miners if you like. With great difficulty, Aisha Huang eventually produced the passports of only one of them, actually two of them. The visas of these arrested persons showed that they came to Ghana on B1 visas, that's business visas, which did not qualify them to be engaged in any type of work in Ghana. They were, however, engaged by Aisha Huang to undertake mining operations without requisite license at Bepo Tintin. Investigations disclosed that Aisha Huang took over the farms of several farmers by mining around their farms and destroying access routes to the farms till they eventually gave over their farms to her for mining purposes. That's interesting. That's the facts of the matter presented to the court by the Attorney General, that Aisha Huang did forcibly take over people's farms by destroying access routes, and then when you are unhappy, she pays you and then you go away. She had, in the process of mining, destroyed their cash crops, sources of drinking water, and livelihoods. Okay. The accused person, which is Aisha Huang, was arraigned before the High Court, Accra, on charges of illegally undertaking a small-scale mining operation contrary to Section 99 of the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703, and illegal employment of foreign nationals contrary to Section 24 and 52, 1D of the Immigration Act 2000, Act 573. On 19 December 2018, the Attorney General entered a nolle prosequi and terminated the trial. The same day, the Controller General of the Ghana Immigration Service revoked her permit to remain in Ghana indefinitely. That's part of the story as far as we are concerned, because ahead of the 2018 trial, Aisha Huang had been issued a permit to remain in Ghana indefinitely, and that was issued by the government preceding the government of 2016, and that we need to understand why that happened. Immigration ordered her immediate repatriation to China and directed her to stay out of Ghana until the Controller General approved of her future re-entry into Ghana. Consequently, Aisha was put on Ethiopian Airlines flight number so, which took off about 12:50 p.m. on the 19th of December 2018 to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, en route to Guangzhou in China. She sat on seat number 32F economy class, and her travel documents were handed over to the captain of the flight to be handed over to her upon arrival at her final destination in Guangzhou in China. Contrary to the direction of the Controller General issued under Section 20 of the Immigration Act, state security agencies received information that she had re-entered Ghana, and she was subsequently arrested on 2nd September 2022 in Kumasi. This re-entry was in total defiance of the clear order by the Controller General of 19 December 2018. Upon her arrest, Aisha Huang had in her possession 2 Chinese passports, one in her name, Aisha Huang, and another in the name Wan Rixia, both of which had her photographs. Okay, so that's the story. So we're now going in to understand the charges that have been preferred against Aisha Huang, but the story is that she was doing illegal mining. She was prosecuted in 2018. For some reason, the Attorney General of the day, Gloria Kufu, felt that there was no need to continue the prosecution. She entered a nolle prosequi in favor of a repatriation of the accused person. The accused person was repatriated. It's found out that she slipped back into Ghana. The immigration officer, the controller of immigration, also had another responsibility, and that's part of the concern tonight. The other responsibility was that President Mohammed's administration has given Aisha Huang leave to remain in Ghana indefinitely. I'm not sure why we don't hear that as part of the story, but in understanding what we do as a nation with Aisha Huang, we have to ask the administration that what went into the giving Aisha Huang an indefinite stay. I'm asking that question, and I think people should ask that question. The Attorney General at the time, Marietta Briopon, let me ask you that question. What kind of advice did you render to President Mahama that Aisha Huang be allowed to be given and issued in her passport leave to remain indefinitely in Ghana? Marietta Briopon, Hannah Tete, the foreign minister, you all have to help us understand this situation. I'm sure it will help the prosecution to properly prosecute Aisha Huang, because this is Ghana and government's a continuum. So the government that issued Aisha Huang the leave to remain indefinitely is the same government that's prosecuted in terms of the contextual meaning of government. Government is a continuum. But this is President Mohammed's administration, foreign minister, and maybe Parliament should ask her. Such a Parliament are very quick to ask questions about almost everything. Parliament, hello? You should ask the former foreign minister and the former attorney general what went into the decision to issue Aisha Huang in her passport, leave to remain indefinitely in Ghana. And those who comment on social media from that side, please ask your people before you come and comment that what happened, what went into that decision. Foreign Minister and Attorney General, you really have to help us understand this as we go to the charges that have now been preferred against her in the court. So let me walk through the charges as Kweku explained. So count one is that Aisha Huang is being allegedly accused of undertaking a mining operation without a license, contrary to Section 99(2)(a) of the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703 as amended by the Minerals and Mining Amendment Act of 2019, Act 995. Okay, so tell us, what are the ingredients?
So first and foremost, before an individual is found guilty of an offense, there is something we call ingredients of an offense. And the ingredients of an offense are the elements of the offense that must be proven to be positive before the individual can indeed be convicted. And so if you take the charge is often the offense, you have to glean or extract certain elements that are present. If you read the count, which is the charge, you would observe that there has to be mining.
There has to be mining.
There has to be
so
mining.
The prosecution will have to show that there was mining.
Indeed, there was mining, and not maybe rumors of mining or alleged whatever that they got from the media, but they have
and it must be mining involving the accused person.
Exactly.
Even if she's not there herself?
If it's on her instigation, and that was why there is facility. There's another charge that's supposed to cover her in that regard. And so there must be mining, and then the mining must be done without a license. And we have to understand the philosophy behind mining with a license. Even if the land is yours. Pursuant to Article 257 of the Constitution, all natural resources, mineral resources in their raw form or in their pure state in the land are property of the state to be held by the president in trust for the people. And this is something we borrowed from the United Kingdom, because in the United Kingdom, even swans belong to the king. I almost said the queen.
Well, the monarch.
The monarch belong to the king of England. And so in this instance, we as a republic have said that mineral resources in their pure state belong to the state. However, it is held in trust by the president on behalf of everybody. And so if you also then go on to the second...
So that the issue about the mining without a license has to do with just beginning to mine, even if the land is yours, as it were.
Even if the land, if it's even your house that you have built on, and they find resource, you find gold under your house.
It doesn't belong to you.
It doesn't belong to you.
You have to report it
to the minerals. Yes, the Minerals Commission.
And so the any mining of that nature without a license falls under count one.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on to count two. Count two says that facilitating and the participation of persons engaged in mining operation contrary to Section 99. Okay, so that's what you're saying. Facilitating the participation of persons engaged in the mining. Okay, so that comes about the story where they found 4 people mining, and they said that Aisha Huang is the one who asked us to come and mine. And she showed interest in that by also appearing at the immigration and police, asking about those people, asking after them.
Yes.
And she actually showed that she held onto 2 of the passports, and she released 2 of them.
Exactly.
Okay, so walk us through count 2.
Good. So count 2, the ingredients are there has to be a facilitation. Facilitation can be anything. It depends on the fact. So it's a case-by-case basis. It can be advice. It can be providing materials. It can be even ordering an individual. Generally, you would have thought of abatements. So maybe they could have said abatement of undertaking a mining operation without a license. But there is a rule that says that specific laws or laws of specific application take precedence over laws of general application. It is couched in Latin as generalia specialibus non derogans. So in this instance, if the law is specifically saying that facilitating the participation of mining carries this punishment, then this is what has to take precedence over any general law to that effect. And
so that if she were to present a defense for herself on count 1, that, well, I wasn't mining, you didn't see me mining, then you can pick her on count 2 and say, but you were facilitating.
Exactly.
And the prosecution must show evidence of that.
Yes.
Beyond reasonable doubt.
Yes. I mean, the facts, rest himself, okay, so the fact speaks for itself. The fact that you are holding a foreign national, your fellow citizens' passports.
But it doesn't mean that I asked him to go and mine.
Oh, I mean,
that I'm holding a passport doesn't mean asking.
These are
because the standard of proof is beyond reasonable doubt.
Exactly.
So it's very tricky, isn't it?
Yes, but
so if I say that I regularly hold the passports of people because they don't speak English and all that, and I have been in Ghana for a while, so I speak English. I don't know what they were doing there. and I just heard that they had gone to the Bepotintin. I'm not sure what they were doing there, but I have their passport. That will count as raising doubt.
Okay, but you see, in the case of R versus Palmer, it was reasonable doubt was defined as doubt that you allow to influence your decision. If that is so, then what amount of doubt would convince anybody or any judge to say Aisha Huang is innocent? I mean, these are just
if the
speculations.
standard of proof is not met, then she's innocent.
Yes, but in this instance, I mean, this woman, it's not the first time.
Yeah, you can say Refsisa all you want.
Yes.
But the facts before the judge must be delivered without reasonable doubt.
So that is when we have to get evidence. We have to get witnesses to come and testify that this is the woman we saw. We have to get the co-accused. The state has to produce the accused persons, and then the accused person will either decide if they want to testify against Aisha Huang by saying that, oh, she was the one who directed us to do so and so. However, there's a lot of speculations as though she's already guilty in the media. I mean, these are just...
Well, yeah, there's been a big media trial against her.
Yeah, we have to wait for the court
Let's
to make
go
that
to count
determination.
3, the last but one. Illegal employment of foreign nationals, contrary to Section 24 of the Immigration Act. Illegal employment of foreign nationals by whom? By another foreign national? Or by a local person?
It may be by another foreign national. It may be by a local person. So this law has a history. In the 1960s, the late 1960s, early 1970s, during the time of Prime Minister Buzia, there was a law, the Aliens Compliance Order, where the Prime Minister, the PP, the Progress Party government,
asked people to leave the country.
Asked people to leave the country if they were not...
We don't want to use the word sack.
Yes,
but they asked them to leave the country. If they were not properly registered.
Yes. And the rationale behind that law was not that we were xenophobic. No, the rationale behind that law was that foreign West African nationals had taken a lot of employment opportunities by Ghanaians, and Ghanaians were complaining. And so Prime Minister Buzia then got frustrated and said that, okay, let us pass this law and then make sure that. And so since then, there has been a conscious effort to enact legislation that more or less safeguards local employment. And so it may...
As it is in every country, really.
As it is in every country. In fact, if you even look at the GIPC Acts, Section 25, 26, 27, and 28, there is a large, there is an extensive legal regime that specifies jobs that foreigners can participate in. Pure water business, provision of textbooks and exercises.
Foreigners cannot participate.
They cannot participate. They cannot participate in taxis with a fleet of cars less than 20. They cannot participate in pure water business. I've already said it. They cannot even hold leases for more than 50 years. And in Act 1036, that's the New Lands Act 2020, a foreign company is defined to be a company that's in Section 10, subsection 10, a company whose equity shareholding is more than 40% owned by non-Ghanaians. They cannot even hold that for more than 50 years.
So once you are more than 40%, you're a foreign company.
40, yes. Even if you were established by a Ghanaian. So GASEM.
Yeah.
We have to check
whether it is still a foreign company, because it has significant Norwegian interest.
Exactly. So, those are interesting dynamics. So there has to be an employment.
So this employment of foreign nationals is targeted both at the Ghanaian and the foreigner.
Exactly. So if you're a Ghanaian that employs a foreigner wrongly, you can fall under this. And you also have to remember that their visas did not give them the permission.
But that's then the case. You see, so this is your ingredients. Ingredient number 1 that you put here. There has to be an employment.
Yes.
What's the definition? Are we going to go to the Labor Act?
Good. So employment is not easy to define.
Yes.
Because you may have persons who are independent contractors. You haven't employed them. For instance, if you get a plumber to come and fix your things at home, the plumber is not your employee. You have called him to work for you. However, what we often, or what at times is used to ascertain who an employee is if he is under such a control of the employer or the company, such that his remuneration, payment of his taxes is on the shoulder of his employee, his remuneration, constant, regular remuneration is on the back of the employee, as well as other factors. Then we can say that you are in the employment of an individual. But it's on a case-by-case basis, and that is one thing we should always ascertain. So they have to look at the facts
in terms of the definition of
and that's the defense we can use. That's they were independent contractors. I didn't employ them. And
then they said the employment must be of persons. It's making the employment definition even more complicated.
Yes.
The persons must be of foreign national. Okay, that's okay. The employment must be illegal.
Yeah.
And so here, on count 3, the prosecution led by the Attorney General will have to drill down on employment to convince His Lordship that there was a relationship that we can properly describe as employment. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't tell us the upon conviction, what happens? How many years and all that?
But
let's go to count 4 and finish it. Entering Ghana while prohibited from re-entry, contrary to say, I think that's quite straightforward.
Yes.
It looks like count 4 is very straightforward. They're going to get her on that because she re-entered Ghana when the controller of immigration has said don't come
back.
Okay, so you're saying in your ingredients that there has to be a re-entry, which we know. If she's found on only this one, does she go to jail?
We cannot ascertain yet if she goes there. The punishments for the charges have been done formally prior. I think last week, that was when the Attorney General hadn't proffered these charges against her. That was done last week. But there are some concerns among the public as to why the Attorney General is getting concerned, why he's
getting concerned about what?
Gets concerned with the trial, because a lot of people are not used to seeing the Attorney General.
Oh, because it's now become a matter of national importance.
Exactly.
And then the record also shows that the Attorney General is taking this from national security, taking over from national security to begin the prosecution. So I think it's fair that in terms of the role of illegal mining in our community and what we say about Galamsey and Galamstop and all of that, it has to be elevated to the level of the Attorney General for him to render the prosecution. And let's see what happens.
Article 88 places all prosecutions in Ghana at the behest of the Attorney General. And so it's a very important office, and he has a responsibility to oversee. If there is even a docket behind in some town and the Attorney General is of the view that it is something very important, he can call and personally prosecute.
But what we need to show also is that apart from count 4, all of these counts were already in the charges of 2018, upon which the Nolly prosecutor was entered.
Yes. But the thing about Nolly prosecutor is it's the power given to the Attorney General to seize prosecution of an individual. Now, Nolly prosecutor is not always about legal reasoning or legal technicality. I don't know if you remember, but last year when Jacob Zuma was being prosecuted, you remember what happened in South Africa? And so at times it may have certain...
Well, they can do a Nolly prosecutor just so that they re-arrest and prosecute again by amending the charges.
Yes, or by ensuring that there is a relatively more friendly atmosphere for the prosecution. Because there's one thing known as prosecutorial discretion. At times, when you end up prosecuting somebody, it causes more harm than good. And so these are things that are taken into consideration before a prosecution is actually seen. It's not everybody who commits an offense that is prosecuted at the end of the day.
Okay, so we wait to see how it goes. So after this stage, give us the stages in the criminal process if you are familiar with it.
After this stage, right now she has been arraigned. They would obviously have to ask her lawyers, Captain Fa, that they would have to ask for...
And his son. A father that is senior and a father that is
junior would have to ask for bail and should be processed. I don't really know if she'll be granted bail or not, but all offenses are bailable. And so she may be granted bail, she may be denied bail. It depends.
Given that she has sort of, if you like, jumped bail, she was repatriated and she sneaked in, will that be a case for the prosecution to say that this is not somebody you can trust and therefore you cannot grant bail to the person?
We can only speculate.
We can speculate what the judge will say, but the prosecution, should they be thinking about that? Should the prosecution be saying that if the bail argument comes, we present these facts to the judge, that here is an individual who was taken away, she slipped back into the country, we cannot trust the process?
If I was a prosecutor, I would argue, yes, I would argue that. And I would also argue that looking at the tense nature of the case and how it's of importance, in Ghana, it is very important that we keep her in custody to protect her herself.
Yeah, that's another argument.
Because if
leaving her out to go,
it may be
people may attack her.
Exactly, but if she's in the custody of national security, then if you like, come to national security.
But she can also, when you leave her, obscure the evidence, because bepotenting has become very important in this analysis.
Yes.
You leave her, she goes there, tells people that if they ask you this, say this. If you do this, I'll do this, because she's still quite powerful.
Because if you look at the
she
facts,
may obscure the evidence.
If you look at the facts, she held a lot of influence in that area.
Absolutely.
The fact that she could tell farmers their land, their sweat and toil, that leave the land, and shows that she may go back
and I don't know whether you want to comment on the other thread that she carries photographs and videos of important personalities, and therefore...
Who said that? That's the thing. You see...
Kweku Bako said it. We showed it.
Oh, Kweku Bako. So we are in a free democracy.
Let me not encumber the young man. These are big battles. Big battles. Let me not worry the young man. Kweku, thank you very much for the presentation. And I do have text messages on this one. I believe that it's time for us to take a commercial break. Oh, it's past 10. My goodness. We have quite a lot to do. It's time for us to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to the two ladies to do our analysis. Monarchy or no monarchy, we'll give them 10 minutes. And then we do the Kwame Nkrumah bit, given that tomorrow a public holiday dedicated to the birthday of the first president of Ghana, the Right Honorable Kwame Nkrumah, Member of Parliament for Accra Central. Commercial break. After that, Good Evening Ghana will continue live.
Located in the beautiful neighborhood of East Legon, Accra, AH Hotel and Conference has all the comfort and luxury you need for the perfect getaway. From check-in to check-out, our friendly staff look forward to pampering you and making your stay special. Our new safety features such as shielded check-in desks, masked employees, and contactless restaurant menus and door keys will give you peace of mind as you enjoy your stay. Our spacious and contemporary designed rooms and suites are the height of luxury and style, fitted with modern amenities for your convenience. Take your company to the next level when you host a conference or meeting in our ultra-modern conferencing complex. But don't forget to take time to relax and rejuvenate as you enjoy our many on-site facilities such as our gym, pool, and world-class restaurant. Locate us near American House or call or visit us online today to start planning your next stay. AH Hotel and Conference. Afrocentric.
The new football seasons have kicked off all over the world, and Betway is here to help you feel the thrill. Beat the odds this season and you could win a share of 3 million cedis in prizes, including a trip to Qatar and fuel vouchers. You could even walk away with a grand prize of 250,000 Ghana cedis in cash. Ekosua Betway. Enter today at betway.com.gh. This advert has been approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly.
Somebody just sent me a very funny WhatsApp message. Okay, good evening. Welcome back to the show. This is Good Evening Ghana. And my attention has been drawn to the fact that the letter that we're going to talk about, the letter from Buckingham Palace to Zimbabwe is fake, isn't it? Oh, wow. Social media these days. It's terrible, isn't it? The other day, a Supreme Court judge was presented before Parliament for appointment committee hearings. Her name is her Lordship Justice Henrietta Mensah Bonsu. And she said to the panel that one thing that surprises her in modern days, that when she was growing up, they used to say that book no lie. So everything she read, she believed. She didn't believe everything she heard, but she believed everything she read. But these days, she's finding out that book can lie. What you read does not mean it is true. People sit down and create something and put it out for fun, you know. They started by calling them hackers. Now it's everywhere. Thank you very much to my team who had to dig deeper and find out that this one was fake. And so we're going to still do the debate, but we don't know yet why Mnangagwa did not attend the event in Buckingham Palace. We don't know what letter King Charles' Royal Highness wrote to him, and we don't also know what letter he wrote. So that's an important correction that we need to make. We had advertised it, and that it is absolutely not correct. But now we have Yolanda and Tiwa. Okay, so they're going to talk to us in 10 minutes. But before then, I go to text messages. Eunice, yes, you first.
So coming from Nana Boateng, the renewed effort of this government in fighting this galamsey is laudable, and I know that those behind Aisha Huang will be smoked out and persecuted. And then also from Kweku Segu, the most educative show in Ghana, and coming from Mohammed Kamal, watching live from Yendi, great presentations. And Akata says, I salute Paul.
From Chris from Adenta, what it means is that there is no opportune time to build a monument for God. From Dioko Jote, JDM and his NDC have no right to talk about Galamsey. JDM was vice president for 4 years, and he did nothing meaningful to end the menace. He should just keep quiet and stop insulting ordinary Ghanaians. And finally, from Master Planner Junior Kintampo, the inconsistency of ex-president Mahama is too much. You arrest people involved in Galamsey when you were president, but because you want more power, you are lying to them that you will grant them amnesty when you are voted back to power. Ghanaians, let's shine our eyes.
Okay, so this one is coming from Atambiri Desmond. He says that, good evening, Paul. You are one of the outstanding journalists we have in the country who comes to his show with a lot of research, work, and not fake social media news. God bless you. I'm watching you live from Bongo. This one is coming from Nana Owusu. He says that, growing up, Galamsey started in the old abandoned pits in the second major mining companies. This illegal mining has now become the order of the day. Plus, their sophisticated equipment produced mainly in China and imported into Ghana. Sounds like we are not too serious about making this Galamsey mining illegal. And finally, from Nana Yao Mensa, a program of facts and for intellectuals, not noise makers and propagandists.
Okay, Walanyo watching us in Akwetia says, it is most unfair for lawyer Nkrabia Efadate to say Galamsey is just a small matter. It is an insult to us as a nation. Our virgin forests and water bodies are deteriorating, and he is saying this, forgetting that posterity is just at the corner to judge us, including his grandchildren yet to be born. This is from Wofaya. He says, the fact, foreigners are entitled to the Ghana card, called non-citizen Ghana card, as captured in the NIR Act 2008, without which they will be refused access to essential services such as residence permits, student visas, and banking transactions. And this is from Mark, watching us in the USA. He says, hello, Paul. A guided tour of 1 hour 30 minutes in Washington Central Cathedral is $75. The National Cathedral in Ghana, when completed, can pay for itself through tourism. Let's rethink our opposition for the construction of the cathedral. Thank you.
Okay, so those are the messages. We now have 10 minutes I gave them at 15 minutes past 10. Maybe I give them 7 minutes. But let's listen to you first, Utiwa. You think the monarchy is a good thing? Yeah. Okay. Tell us your preliminary reasons why. Then I'll ask you a few questions.
Okay.
You need to hold the mic so people can hear you.
Okay. So first and foremost, I think the monarchy on itself is a king and a queen, or a system where a king or a queen takes succession. And for me, the reason why I would go for the monarchy is because it's more safer, and then it's politically stable as compared to the normal government system that we all would go in for, and there's lesser corruption as compared to the normal government system as well. And aside imperialism, that I know should definitely counter me with, aside imperialism, even imperialism on its own has brought its own benefits, which include education. And and I know should also bring the fact that we were colonized by these same monarchies, especially from the UK. But then I would say that they have done more good than harm to us.
So you think that the monarchy has done more good than harm because the monarchy gives us political stability. Yeah, you are completely right about that. It was in 1960, after we changed our political system without the monarchy, that the coup came, and that the constitutional amendments that were difficult to deal with came. So you may be right on the point of stability, and the British political system, much as it looks unstable because of regular changes and regular elections, has proved to be very stable over the many years. And then you also said monarchy brought us, for those of us who were colonized, it brought us education and maybe language. Okay, your point is supported. People ask that, what languages would we have been speaking today? There are 300 dialects in Ghana alone. And how were we going to communicate with each other except that we got a unified language brought by the imperialists? But you also agree that they may be imperialists also. People, I can add one more to yours. The medicine, the development in medicine and science, healthcare, how they brought us pills. We were using Dudo, you know Dudo, and Bibidro, and then we boil something and then we sit over it and that kind of thing. And they took all of that and brought us back oral tablets that we use till now. And of course, the British monarchy and the imperialists have been critical in the development of science, medicine, and education across the world. Okay, so those are your points. Okay, I'll come back to ask you critical questions. Let's hear you, Yolanda. Why do you say no to monarchy?
First of all, we can't ignore the fact that everywhere that the British, with their head of state, passed through history, there were millions of deaths wherever they tread. Like, we cannot ignore that and look at, you know, certain things that we cannot guarantee would not have existed even if they didn't do all of that harm that they did. But at the same time, their role has become pretty redundant.
You have to evidence the millions of deaths a little bit. I mean, it's okay to say it, but you have to evidence it.
Like,
so let's take Gold Coast, for instance.
Yes, exactly.
So they first came, they signed a bond of 1844.
Exactly.
They didn't kill anybody on that one.
No.
But then they fought wars with the Ashantis.
Exactly, they fought wars with the Ashantis.
The Ashantis killed them too.
Exactly, but it was self-defense for the most part,
okay,
right?
So you mean that the British were the aggressors?
Yes, exactly.
And not in all the wars. One of the wars, the Ashantis were the aggressors over the Fantis.
Exactly.
And so the British protected the Fantis from the invasion and incursion of Ashanti.
Okay.
So in that one, the Ashantis were the aggressors.
Yes, but then at the same time, you cannot like ignore all of those things in India, in Pakistan, in Iran, the things that they did historically to these people in Nigeria, right? So where like they are the common denominator for most of the deaths that happened and even led to the slave trade, where we can find a lot of Africans dying in the sea and all of that, I think it's problematic to continue to uphold a symbol of that oppression that we had to fight our way out of. At the same time, it has become pretty redundant. They don't do much, but they spend a lot of money. They hold a lot of wealth, especially in the current economic crisis that the UK is going through. I think it is not justifiable to be spending taxpayers' money on people who are fetishized. Again, the whole idea of monarchy means like an inherent superiority, that simply because you are born from one person that you deserve to have all of that power, all of that
No,
wealth.
it's simply because your ancestor was a conqueror. It's not that you are born by one person, that the one who gave birth to you was a conqueror and occupied territory.
Exactly. And at least,
do you know that if your father has land at North Ridge, 16 acres of land at North Ridge, Mr. Yolanda, if he has that, if he has that land and you are born on 7 January or 28 February 2016, you have actually inherited that.
Exactly.
If she's born the same day, she hasn't inherited that. Both of you are born the same time. Same as the monarchy. Yours is 16 acres, theirs is an empire. That's all.
Exactly. But then the problem with it is that, like, if I have my 16 acres, it is not by force or compulsory that I become the head of state or I get this.
You are the head of state over the 16 acres.
Exactly, but not over people who have not elected me.
Theirs is not 16 acres, theirs is an empire.
Which is still important, especially when you consider the fact that UK has been like very loud in pushing for democracy, and yet their head of state itself is an unelected monarch who still gets to, even though she doesn't take part in a lot of decision making, still gets to play a part in what happens with choosing prime ministers, passing laws and other things, even if it's in small quantities.
In those days, they were the overlords. She's the overlord, so the land belongs to her. So those who appear after her are her subjects, because that land, it was about territory, and it was about conquest, and it was about banditry in those days. All the titles of land. So are you against King Solomon inheriting King David? In the Bible, the historical David and Solomon, are you against that?
If they are not playing any role, sure, no problem.
What is the role? I don't understand.
Like what she does now, like what they do now is basically being fetishized for dressing in a particular way.
They don't play any role?
Yes,
that's because we don't see it.
The role that they play is very tiny, and
no, they raise a lot of money for Britain.
How? Through tourism?
Yes.
Because there are many other countries.
If you look at the wedding of Princess Diana, the wedding of Kate Middleton, it brought billions of pounds to Britain. But even the souvenirs from the funeral, billions of pounds to Britain.
But that's the point, right? Even if they didn't exist in those places, for example, in Germany, there's so many historical monuments that bring in millions of euros at any point in time without them having a monarchy. So the justification cannot be because they are bringing...
Britain has more tourism record than Germany.
But it's...
by a distance, not just...
Yes, but then like it still cannot be the justification. Like tourism in and of itself
so you
cannot
think
be
abolish
the justification.
Monarchy?
Yes,
and,
I think...
And do what with them, all those people?
All of this,
Prince
make
Charles,
them work.
William,
Make them work.
or send them to work at British
And-
Post Office.
And by doing that, you know, it looks like we are harming them, but it's good for them, because what the monarchy does today themselves is take away their autonomy.
Okay, so what they own, should we take it from them?
What they own.
Right now, yes.
I think that
If we abolish the monarchy, should they still own it?
No, they should take a large chunk of it from
Why?
them, because they benefit from those from eluding the same taxes and inheritance tax, the same things that
Or you mean their
the
property
general
should be
people.
taken from them? Property rights, they're right there.
The-
The property should be taken from them.
The assets and the wealth and profits that they've gotten from those assets, because those have been gotten from eluding taxes that the ordinary.
How are they eluding taxes? Parliament passed the law that they cannot be
Exactly.
taxed. But the Parliament passed the law.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
then
how do
it-
you say that they're punishing
Okay.
them for a law that Parliament passed?
That's the point. It's because of the superiority attached to them.
That's why
So-
Parliament passed the law.
Exactly. So in the
So you
end,
take it from them, even though they'll sue you in the High Court.
how will you sue somebody
When
for-
the law said, give me this, and they
Uh-huh.
got it, and you say, take it from them, you can pass another law that
Okay.
henceforth they can't have it. But you can't pass the law in retrospectivity. No law
Okay.
in the world can be passed in
Okay.
the past. So
That's
British Parliament can
justified.
pass a law today and say, from now on, Queen Elizabeth will pay tax, which is okay. But you can't take her possessions from her.
Okay.
So if you leave her with all the castles, possessions, interest that she has in companies, she is particularly wealthy.
Yeah, and that's better than her still like continuing to have that dominant position in politics where she is not elected by the people. The people, like, there's an increasing number of people who claim that they don't want the monarchy, but nobody's listening to them. The whole point of third world countries and those that have the power to veto at the UN is their ability to do certain things and push certain agenda. If you're at the forefront of democracy and pushing democratic tendencies on smaller countries, then you can't afford to like have mistakes in your own ideals. But again, at the same time, they put these people in very problematic situations, because we have this instance where we found Queen Elizabeth hiding in the gardens because she didn't want to have to deal with this one head of state that she didn't want to. You are taking away their autonomy because you expect them to fit a certain bill to do a particular thing, and allowing them to evade, like, to not pay attention to certain crucial things that other people are held to, like the Equality Act, like the Health and Safety Act. Like they cannot, like the police cannot go inside the Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, they
to hold
cannot arrest. No, they
investigations.
can't.
Exactly, and that is why
They can't arrest for traffic offense.
and they can't even enter for investigations unless they give them the permission to do so.
So you don't like the idea of an overlord?
Exactly, it's
We
problematic.
have them in Ghana, you know.
Because-
We have them in Ghana.
Exactly, and that's
We
the
should, we
thing,
should take
because
all, even the Ghana ones, we should destroy them.
they point fingers at us for having the same things. They call them dictators. They call them problematic people.
No, I'm
They-
talking about cultural leaders, monarchs in Ghana.
No, but that's the point. The monarchs in Ghana don't have as much power, and they are not called the heads of state of Ghana.
Okay, so you think they should remove the tag head of state?
Yes.
And then keep them.
And not allow her to
Like the
that-
Spanish and the Dutch ones.
Exactly.
They are
those-
not head of state, but
yes,
they are there.
Exactly. Those are okay with me, right?
I get your point.
Exactly.
I think your argument has been made. No head of state, you can keep them there.
Yes, yes. Let the people vote for who they want.
Okay, it's time now, so you have the final word. I now have the pleasure to determine who won the debate. Yes. Did you win?
I can say without doubt, the only thing she doesn't want is the superiority of the
Yes, she made
monarch.
her point that you cannot call them head of state,
Yes.
so that they don't have an overbearing involvement in politics, which determines the lives of the people. That's really the point she's making. I think that's the point you're making, Yolanda. Yeah. Do you have text messages about this? Not really. Okay, so we will end it here and determine who won. But who won? Abdul, who won?
I think Tiwa didn't have enough time to speak, you know. Yes, so maybe some things she wanted to say, she didn't get the chance. But looking at the presentation, I am also against the monarchy in that state. So I would say Yolanda won. Yeah.
Okay, Eunice, who won?
So I guess in this case, Yolanda won. She sounds much convincing, and then she has enough points to prove whatever she's saying. So I go for
Okay,
Yolanda.
I think also that Yolanda was actually debating both of us, because I sort of agreed with you. Mikhail, how did you see it?
I would say that I think Tiwa didn't articulate her points as well as she could have. It got to a point where Yolanda was controlling the dialogue, she was controlling the discourse, she was controlling the narrative, the way people see it. And she made a very strong point that you can't have a problem with. You can't have people who are superior to you. They tax you, you can't arrest them when they violate certain rules. She had the opportunity to put her ideas out better. I would say she did a better job. If Tiwa had spoken a bit longer, shared her thoughts a bit more articulately, maybe she should have made a better point.
Why are both of you in yellow, by the way?
Huge coincidence, but we are both in Volta Hall.
Oh, we're not hearing her. Hold the mic. Why are both of you in yellow?
Oh, it's a huge coincidence, but we are both in Volta Hall, and one of our colors is yellow, so I'm guessing that could probably be a reason.
You have a small resemblance to the Minister of Communication. I don't know. Can you give her a close-up? Can you give her a close-up camera? Yes, you see now. Yeah, you have quite a close resemblance to the Communication Minister.
It's.
Do you know her?
No, I don't.
Do you know her name?
Yes.
It's called Esla
Yes,
Owusu.
yes,
she's
I
the Minister
do.
for Communication. She's a member of Parliament.
Okay.
Have you been told that you look like her before?
No.
Can you give her a close-up? The close-up is gone. Is it gone? Yeah.
No,
Okay. Yeah. Stay there. Stay there.
I
Stay
haven't.
there. They're taking a close-up of you now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Have you seen her before? Have you
Yes.
heard her speak?
Yes, I have. I have heard her speak, but
okay.
nobody has told me I look like her. They've mentioned a lot of people, Kiki Palmer, all of those.
They say you look like Gib Bahama.
Yes, from Aquila and the Bee.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
But I've never heard that.
But it's the first time you're hearing that you look like Esla Owusu.
Yes, I take this as a prediction of what the future holds.
Do you want to be a politician?
Oh, absolutely.
I see. That's interesting. That's pleasant. Is your father a politician or your mother is a politician?
No, none of them actually.
But your question to be a politician in level 400 is absolutely. That's amazing.
I'm
I'm excited to hear that.
I decided I wanted to be a politician in class 4, so.
Oh, in class 4. So you're going to be a politician?
Yes.
Okay, political parties who are recruiting. I have Yolanda here, NDC, MPP. I have Yolanda, so you can recruit her. Matilda, let me hear you on the message you have.
Alaji Hudu Yarira, this girl is rubbishing Paul's editorial or what have you. She's making more sense than Paul. And from her Diziko, Paul, I presume you were just to let them battle it amongst themselves. And then also from Gastiman, the girl is making a sensible argument. We don't need that queen. And then finally from Ajwa Pokua, the monarchy is the reason for the British Empire in the first place. There would have been no United Kingdom without their kings who fought to build an empire. You cannot cancel British history because you don't find it relevant. That is for the British people to decide because that is their history. If you make an argument to cancel the monarchy by equal measure, if you make an argument to cancel the monarchy by equal measure, someone can get up and say we should cancel the Ashanti Kingdom. Let's allow the British people to decide whether they want them as head of state or not. But I admire the way they cherish, honor, and love their heritage. That is what makes them strong.
Okay, so there's one message from Vidi Sachi. He says that the royal family brings over £100 million to the UK economy every year. It would not exist if it wasn't beneficial to the state.
He says it's a very intellectual debate between your ladies, but seriously, we really need more time to tackle this thing. Both really need history about that. And David in Tabora says, one hardly hears Britons insulting the king or queen of England. How come we in Ghana easily insult our leaders, be they presidents, kings, chiefs, pastors, what have you? We need to change our ways.
Okay, so I'm sure that the cameraman, your camera is standing in the middle of nowhere. So do you want to take it out? All right, so let's get to local. Let's come back to the history of Ghana. It has a bit of the Queen in there, but let's get back to the history of Ghana. And this is very important. Tomorrow is the dedication of a public holiday, a statutory public holiday to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who is the first president of Ghana and who was the prime minister at the time of independence, and he represented Accra Central. Dr. Nkrumah later came on to become a great Pan-Africanist in terms of his philosophy of uniting Africa, and he eventually was elected by the BBC at the turn of the century of the 20th century in 21st century. He was elected by BBC listeners across the world as the African of the century, ahead of Nelson Mandela, the famous South African president. Okay, now what I've put here is what I believe is Dr. Nkrumah's most important motion that he filed in Parliament. I was going to talk about the British Parliament as a recommendation for Ghana's new political changes. But we don't have time for that today. We probably will do that on Thursday, even though Thursday will be dedicated a lot to football. But I've come to bring this today because I feel that this is Dr. Nkrumah's most important motion that he laid before Parliament. Now, when we talk about the Nkrumah and all of those historical things, because of the obscurity of our history by our political bosses who decided that we shouldn't study history, a lot of the information is obscured and people don't actually know what happened. Now, this is the motion that Dr. Nkrumah moved for Ghana's independence, and people must understand that the Ghana's independence was a motion moved in Parliament, and it was a motion that was granted. Like today, you go and move a motion in Parliament for all sorts of things that Parliament do. A motion moved in Parliament for e-levy, and the motion was granted by Parliament. That's how independence was. It was a motion moved in the Ghanaian Parliament and sent to the British Parliament that the Ghanaian Parliament had voted for independence, so could you please apply it right now? And then the British Parliament did the same thing. That was the process of independence. It wasn't a guerrilla war that was won by somebody. It wasn't all that. It was this. But because the history had been obscured, a lot of us have not acquainted with it. We're taking the next 15 minutes to sort of show you what Nkrumah said when he moved the motion of destiny. And it's reported in Dr. Nkrumah's autobiography here. That's the book. It's Nkrumah's autobiography. It's reported on page 197. It's entitled The Motion of Destiny. If you get the book, you can see it and read it for yourself. What we've put across on the touch screen is edited versions of it to make the point that we are seeking to make. So permit me now to go to the touch screen and begin. And this is Dr. Nkrumah writing in 1954 when he moved the motion. He said, Mr. Speaker, I began. It is Nkrumah writing, so he says he began by saying, Mr. Speaker, and he continues. He said, I beg to move that this assembly, in adopting the government's white paper on constitutional reform, do authorize the government to request that Her Majesty's government, as soon as the necessary constitutional and administrative arrangements are made for independence, should introduce an act of independence into the United Kingdom Parliament, declaring the Gold Coast a sovereign and independent state within the Commonwealth. And further, that this assembly do authorize the government to ask Her Majesty's government, without prejudice to the above request, to amend as a matter of urgency the Gold Coast Constitution Order in Council 1950 in such a way as to provide inter alia that a legislative assembly shall be composed of members directly elected by secret ballot, and that all members of the cabinet shall be members of the assembly and directly responsible to it. Mr. Speaker, Nkrumah continued, it is with great humility that I stand before my countrymen and before the representatives of Britain to ask this House to give accent to this motion. In this solemn hour, I am deeply conscious of the grave implications of what we are about to consider, and as the great honor of proposing this motion has fallen to my lot, I pray God to grant me the wisdom, strength, and endurance to do my duty as it should be done. We are called upon to exercise statesmanship of a high quality that I would repeat, if I may, my warning of October. Every idle or ill-considered word will militate against the cause which we all have at heart. At the outset, he continues, I would like to remind honorable members of a passage in the white paper that only after the Legislative Assembly debate will the proposals of this government take their final shape and be communicated to the United Kingdom government. Let me pause here and just render an explanation. So what Dr. Nkrumah is doing is that he's moving the motion in the Ghanaian Parliament in 1954. He's asking members of Parliament that it is after the debate that everything that we have said here will be sent to London. He's urging members of Parliament that let's consider a certain statesmanship and patriotism as we move this debate. And this is called the motion of independence. So all the theories and philosophy you hear around that some people were against independence, we'll find out today, because this is Dr. Nkrumah writing. This is not Nkrumah's opponents. This is Nkrumah himself writing. He's detailing what he said to Parliament and asking Parliament to pass the motion. It is upon this motion that Ghana was granted independence. So those who say all of that have to also address the context of what happened after 1954, between 54 and 56, which may have given occasion to the things they talk about. This is the history. It has been obscured. We are publishing it today so that people can see it. Okay, so Nkrumah continues. He says, therefore, let your argument, now he's talking to his colleague members of Parliament, minority and majority. He says, let your argument be cogent and constructive. The range of this debate must be national, not regional, patriotic, not partisan. And I now ask that a spirit of cooperation and goodwill pervade this debate. It was Aristotle, the master who knows who said. Now, let me repeat this. Nkrumah was urging the members of Parliament. He said, The range of this debate must be national, not regional, patriotic, not partisan. And now I ask that a spirit of cooperation and goodwill pervade this debate. It was Aristotle who said, now when we finish it, and Nkrumah comes to the end, we will look at the votes. How many votes went in favor of the motion and how many went against? And then we will understand whether the parliament had heeded the advice of the prime minister as he urged them here or not. Okay, let's move on. In practical matters, it says, in practical matters, the end is not... In practical matters, the end is not... This is, he's quoting Aristotle. Aristotle said, in practical matters, the end is not mere speculative knowledge of what is to be done, but rather the doing of it. It is not enough to know about the virtue then, but we must endeavor to possess it and to use it. As with virtue, Nkrumah says, so with self-government. We must endeavor to possess it and to use it. And the motion which I have prepared is the means to possess it. The Prime Minister continues, in seeking your mandate, I'm asking you to give my government the power to bring to fruition the longing hopes, the ardent dreams, the fervent aspirations of the chiefs and people of our country. Throughout a century of alien rule, our people have, with ever-increasing tendency, looked forward to that bright and glorious day when they shall regain their ancient heritage and once more take their place rightly as free men in the world. Mr. Speaker, he continues, we have frequent examples to show that there comes a time in the history of all colonial peoples when they must, because of their will, throw off the hampering shackles of colonialism, boldly assert their God-given rights to be free of a foreign ruler. Today, we are here to claim this right to our independence. Mr. Speaker, he continues, never in the history of the world has an alien ruler granted self-rule to a people on a silver platter. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I say that a people's readiness in the very early days of Christianity, in the very early days of the Christian era, he says, long before England had assumed any importance, long before her people had united into a nation, our ancestors had attained a great empire, which lasted until the 11th century, when it fell before the attacks of the Moors in the north. At its height, that empire stretched from Timbuktu to Bamako, and even as far as the Atlantic. It is said that lawyers and scholars were much respected in that empire, and that the inhabitants of Ghana wore garments of wool, cotton, silk, and velvet. There was a trade in copper, gold, and textile fabric, and weapons of gold and silver were carried. Now, this is very important because this is the first time that the name Ghana is mentioned in the whole documentation towards independence. This is Dr. Nkrumah moving the independence motion, knowing that the name Ghana was suggested by the opponents, by the UP group. They suggested the name Ghana after Dr. Dankwa's research. Nkrumah is showing here, in presenting the motion of destiny to Parliament, that the name Ghana had been adopted by the government white paper, and he's giving the reasons that Dankwa gave Timbuktu, Bamako, and all of that. So this is the motion of independence motion, first moved in 1954. And Dr. Nkrumah is mentioning Ghana, suggesting in the motion that the name Ghana will be the name to be chosen by the Gold Coast people as they send the motion to England for approval. Thus, he goes on, we may take pride in the name of Ghana, not out of romanticism, but as an inspiration for the future. It is right and proper that we should know about our past. For just as the future moves from the present, so the present has emerged from the past. Nor need we be ashamed of our past. Now, this one speaks to why history is important. Nkrumah was talking about it's very important that we know about our past. Some people came and said we should cancel history. Anyway, I move on. There was much in it of glory. What our ancestors achieved in the context of their contemporary society gives us confidence that we can create out of that past a glorious future, not in terms of war and military pomp, but in terms of social progress and of peace. For we repudiate war and violence. Our battles shall be against the old ideas that keep men trammeled in their own greed, against the crass stupidities that breed hatred, fear, and inhumanity. I like that. Nkrumah said that our battles will be against the old ideas that keep men from... I should get that quote. Please get this quote for me so we'll put it on our flyer. He says, our battles shall be against the old ideas that keep men trammeled in their own greed, against the crass stupidities that breed hatred, fear, and inhumanity. I like that. Put it on our flyer. It is going to permanently be on our flyer. I'll read it again. Our battle shall be against the old ideas that keep men trampled in their own greed, against the crass stupidities that breed hatred, fear, and inhumanity. Thank you. Thank you. Let's move on. Nkrumah continues. The heroes of our future will be those who can lead our people out of the stifling fog of disintegration through serfdom into the valley of light, where purpose, endeavor, and determination will create that brotherhood which Christ proclaimed 2,000 years ago, and about which so much is said, but so little done. That's very interesting. Dr. Nkrumah is speaking in 1954 like an evangelist of the Pentecost Church. He said here to Parliament that the heroes of our future will be those who can lead our people out of the stifling fog of disintegration through serfdom into the valley of light, where purpose, endeavor, and determination will create that brotherhood which Christ proclaimed 2,000 years ago, about which so much is said, but so little done. The Gold Coast Revolution, and I quote, "When the Gold Coast Africans demand self-government today, they are in consequence merely asserting their birthright, which they never really surrendered to the British, who, disregarding their treaty obligations of 1844, gradually usurped sovereign authority over our country." It goes on. Then the Fanti Confederation, the earliest manifestation of Gold Coast nationalism, occurred in 1968 when Fanti chiefs attempted to form the Fanti Confederacy in order to defend themselves against the might of Ashanti and the incipient political encroachment of British merchants. It was also a union of the coastal states for mutual economic and social development. This was declared a dangerous conspiracy with the consequent arrest of its leaders. Then he's tracing the history of how we came to where we are in 1954. Then the Aborigines Rights Protection Society was the next nationalist movement to be formed with its excellent aims and objectives. And by putting up their titanic fight, for which we cannot be sufficiently grateful, they formed an unforgettable bastion for the defense of our God-given land and thus preserved our inherent right to freedom. Such men as Mensa Saba, Atta Ahuma, Say, and Wood have played their role in this great fight. Now, this is also a very important part of the conversation, because here, Nkrumah what Nkrumah wrote here could have been the memorandum to Parliament on the setting up of the Founders' Day holiday. This thing that Nkrumah wrote could have easily been the memorandum to Parliament in setting up Founders' Day. But that's what he's talking about, those who say that Kwame Nkrumah is the only founder. Kwame Nkrumah himself does not think so. And that's why history is important. It's in the book. He wrote it himself, but they say we shouldn't read it. Now we are reading it. We are finding out that the man that they say he's the founder, he himself, he didn't say that he's founder. He listed the people who had been before him. He did list them in the motion that he presented to Parliament. Okay, let's move on. Next came the National Congress of British West Africa. The end of the First Great War brought its strains and stresses, and echoes of Allied slogan, "We fight for freedom," did not pass unheeded in the ears of Casely Hayford, Hutton Mills, and other national stalwarts who were some of the moving spirits of the National Congress for British West Africa. The machinations of imperialism did not take long to smoother the dreams of the people concerned, but today their aims and objectives are being more than gratified with the appointment of African judges and other improvements in our national life. As with the case of the National Congress for British West Africa, the United Gold Coast Convention, the UGCC, was organized at the end of the Second World War to give expression to the people's desire for better conditions. The British government, seeing the threats to its security, arrested 6 members of the convention and detained them for several weeks until the Watson Commission came. The stand taken by the Trades Union Congress, the farmers, the students, and women of the country provides one of the most epic stories in our national struggle. The Kusi Constitution of 1951 further democratized the basis of representation, and now, for the first time in our history, this government is proposing the establishment of a fully elected assembly with ministers directly responsible to it. We have experienced indirect rule. We have had to labor under the yoke of our own disunity, caused by the puffed up pride of those who were lucky to enjoy better opportunities in life than their less fortunate brothers. We have experienced the slow and painful progress of constitutional changes by which, from councils on which Africans were either absent or merely nominated, this august house was evolved through the exercise by the enfranchised people of their democratic rights to a voice in their own affairs, and in so doing, they have shown their confidence in their own countrymen by placing on us the responsibility of our own country's affairs. And so through the years, many have laid to the final rest from the stresses and dangers of the national struggle. And many, like our illustrious friends of the opposition, notwithstanding the fact that we may differ on many points, we have also contributed a share to the totality of our struggle. And we hope that whatever our differences, we shall today become united in the demand for our country's freedom. As I said earlier, this is very important. And Dr. Nkrumah is saying here to the opposition that having been divided, we have all contributed to the struggle, and that today, as he moves this motion, he is expecting that everyone will support it. As I said earlier, what we ask is not for ourselves on this side of the house, which is the CPP, the ruling party, but for all the chiefs and people of this country, the right to live as free men in a community of nations. We are not our ancestors ruling themselves before the white man came to these shores. I have earlier made reference to the ancient history of our more distant forebears in Ghana to assert that certain people are capable of ruling themselves while others are not yet ready, as the saying goes, smacks to me more of imperialism than of reason. Biologists of repute maintain that there is no such thing as a superior race. Men and women are as much products of their environment and geographic climate, ethnic, cultural, social class of instincts, and physical heredity. We are determined to change our environment, and we shall advance in like manner. According to the motto of the valiant Accra Evening News, that's his newspaper, he said, the motto again, we prefer self-government with danger to servitude in tranquility. Honorable members, Osajifo continues, you are called here now as a result of relentless tide of history by nemesis, as it were, to a sacred charge, for you hold the destiny of our country in your hands. The eyes and ears of the world are upon you. Yea, our oppressed brothers throughout this vast continent of Africa and the New World are looking to you with desperate hope as an inspiration to continue their grim fight against cruelties which we in this corner of Africa have never known, cruelties which are a disgrace to humanity and to the civilization which the white man has set himself to teach us. At this time, history is being made. A colonial people in Africa has put forward the first definite claim for independence. An African colonial people proclaimed that they are ready to assume the stature of free men and to prove to the world that they are worthy of trust. Nkrumah says, I know you will not fail to choose who, blah, 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 etc. It's not clear. Let me move on. Okay. Here he talks about Queen Elizabeth. So let's do that. He says, Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, has just been crowned barely 1 month ago. The memory is still fresh in our minds. The Queen herself has not forgotten the emotions called forth as she first felt the weight of the crown upon her head. The decorations in London streets are hardly down. The millions of words written about the coronation and its meaning will endure for centuries. The prayers from millions of lips are still fresh. The vows of dedication to duty, which the Queen made, are a symbol of the duties devolving on the Commonwealth. And so, we repudiate the evil doctrines which we know are promulgated and accepted elsewhere as truth. To Britain, this is the supreme testing moment in her African relations, when we turn our eyes to the sorry events in South, Central, and East Africa. When we hear the dismal news about Kenya and Central African federations, we are cheered by the more cordial relations that exist between us and Britain. We are now asking her to allow that relationship to ripen into golden bonds of freedom, equality, and fraternity by complying without delay to our request for self-government. We are sure that the British government will demonstrate its goodwill towards the people of the Gold Coast by granting us self-government, which we now so earnestly desire. We enjoin the people of Britain and all political parties to give our request their ardent support. Mr. Speaker, for my part, I can only re-echo the words of a great man. Man's dearest possession is life, and since it is given to him to live but once, he must so live as not to be smeared with the shame of a cowardly existence and a trivial past. So live that, dying, he might say, all my life and all my strength were given to the finest cause in the world deliberation of mankind. Mr. Speaker, Nkrumah says, now God be thanked who has marched us with this hour. I beg to move. That was the independence motion moved by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah to the Parliament of Ghana. This was the independence motion. Notice last words. It said, Mr. Speaker, now God be thanked who has marched us with this hour. He moved the motion. So then, what happened when the motion was moved to the Parliament of the United Party, the UP group, the NLM group, and the CPP? Oh, why is it gone? I'm sorry to come back. I'm sure it'll come back. So he moved the motion, and yeah, it's back now. And so we're going to see what happened. Okay, so I beg to move is the last thing he told Parliament. The rest is his own commentary. He says, the acclamation that burst forth was such that one expected the roof and the walls to collapse. As soon as the cheering was heard by those waiting outside, they took it up as well. That's what happened. People went to the Parliament House. And Nkrumah is writing, he was speaking from inside Parliament and even speaking from the box. He said the acclamation that met the completion of his motion, when he said, I beg to move, that acclamation could have ripped off the roof of the Parliament House and all the walls could have broken because it was so loud. Now, let's see what happened after that. He said those outside, when they heard the cheering inside, also began cheering because they thought the independent motion had passed and that Ghana was going to be independent. Let's see what Nkrumah says after that. He said, members from both sides of the House came to congratulate me, and in the words of the official Legislative Assembly debate. Okay, so I'll pause here. Let me come back, bring me back on the screen. It's very important. So the motion of independence was moved by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, 1954. This is it. It's produced in his book. I've produced some of it, the essential parts. He finished moving the motion and told Mr. Speaker that I've moved it. I beg to move. And he said the acclamation was huge. He said he was congratulated by both sides of the House. Professor Buzia was in the House on that day. He led the minority. Mumuni Baumia was in the House that day. He was sitting there on the CPP side. Others were there. Joe Appiah and others. Victor Usu. They were all in the House. And Nkrumah said, when I moved the motion, both sides came to congratulate me. But we've heard people saying independence was opposed by some people. They said that's not correct. And they say that because they changed the context. This is the independence motion moved by Kwame Nkrumah, 1954. This is the record. And thankfully, we had a president who writes. So this is Nkrumah himself writing. It's not Dr. Dankwa writing. It's Nkrumah writing. Okay, so let's see what he says. He says, according to the Legislative Assembly debate, the document in the House was suspended for 15 minutes. J.A. Brimer, Minister for Communication and Works, then seconded the motion, and after it had been debated upon for a few days, it was carried unanimously. You see, book doesn't lie. Black and white doesn't lie. We've heard it all the time. They've been telling us, oh, they say that the people said they don't want independence was opposed. This is the record. The independence motion was carried unanimously. And we have the list of all the members in the House in 1954. We have the list. So it's in the Hansard. The independence motion was carried unanimously. So they should come back and explain to us what happened. Maybe from next week we'll get back into 55, 56 and see what happened. But this is the independence motion that was moved for Ghana's independence. Osajifo said it was carried unanimously. He said, with this amended constitution, the anomalies in the Kusi constitution were more or less eradicated. But in order to give effect to this, it was necessary to call a general election. Okay, so he said a general election was called to give effect to the constitutional amendment. But the motion, independence motion, was carried. Well, I'd like to leave it here, and then let's look at a small comparative matter. Our time is fast running. Maybe they'll give me some 5 more minutes. Okay, a small comparative matter. So no, I'll leave it here. Next Tuesday, I'll come with the comparative matter. I'll leave it here. But in the spirit of celebrating Kwame Nkrumah, let's just go and see how he described the unfortunate events of, unfortunate in terms of his angle of 1966, the coup. I found the document. I wanted to share with you the way in which Nkrumah described the coup that overthrew him. And all of this is in celebrating Nkrumah's birthday. Let me go back. Let's take the Nkrumah coup 1966. It was published how he received the coup news. Very, very unhappy Nkrumah. And in the spirit of his birthday, let's look at it. And this is what he writes. He says, so this is how Dr. Nkrumah, this is This is how Dr. Nkrumah received the news of the coup that overthrew him. As we celebrate his birthday, let's remember this. Okay. He said the word coup should not be used to describe what took place in Ghana on 24th February 1966. On that day, Ghana was captured by traitors among the army and the police who were inspired and helped by neo-colonialists and certain reactionary elements among our own population. It was an act of aggression, an invasion planned to take place in my absence and to be maintained by force. Seldom in the history has a more cowardly and criminally stupid attempt been made to destroy the independence of a nation. When the action took place, I was on my way to Hanoi at the invitation of President Ho Chi Minh with proposals for ending the war in Vietnam. I had almost reached Peking, the farthest point in my journey. The cowards who seized power by force of arms behind my back knew they did not have the support of the people of Ghana, and therefore thought it safe to wait until I was only out of the country but well beyond the ranges of a quick return. The news was brought to me by the Chinese ambassador in Accra, who had gone on ahead to Peking to meet me and to be with me during my visit to China. He had just accompanied Prime Minister Chu Enlai, Liu Xiaoliu, and other officials when they welcomed us at the airport, and he had come straight out to the government house where I was staying. I remember his exact words. Mr. President, I have bad news. There has been a coup d'etat in Ghana. I was taking a brief rest after the long flight from Rangoon and wondered if I had heard him correctly. What did you say? A coup d'etat in Ghana? Okay. Impossible, I said. But yes, it is possible. These tongues, okay, I can't see that. They are in the nature of the revolutionary struggle. I learned later that the Chinese welcoming party had known about the events in Ghana when I stepped from the aircraft at Peking, but with characteristic courtesy, they waited to break the news to me privately. Okay, my first reaction was to return immediately to Accra. If the VC-10 of Ghana Airways, in which we had traveled most of the way, had been at Peking, I would have embarked at once. But we had left it behind at Rangoon and had continued to Peking in an aircraft sent by the Chinese government. I knew that to avoid unnecessary bloodshed, I would have to be back in Ghana within 24 hours, and this was clearly impossible. I decided, therefore, to make an immediate statement to the Ghanaian people and to fight back on African soil just as soon as my host could make the necessary travel arrangements. What had happened in Ghana was no more than a tactical setback in the African revolutionary struggle of a type which I had often predicted. At the very first conference of the Organization of African Unity in Addis Ababa, I had warned my fellow heads of state that none of us was safe if we remained disunited. For this reason, I considered that the overall strategy remained unchanged, but what had happened in Ghana made it all the more necessary to press on by revolutionary means to secure a united Africa. The following is the text of the statement released to the press. Quote, on my arrival in Peking, my attention has been drawn to reports from press agencies which allege that some members of Ghana Armed Forces, supported by some members of the police, have attempted to overthrow my government, the government of the Convention People's Party. I know that the Ghanaian people are always loyal to me, the party and the government, and all I expect of everyone at this hour of the trial is to remain calm but firm in the determination and resistance. Officers and men in the Ghana Armed Forces who are involved in this attempt are ordered to return to their barracks and wait for my return. I am the constitutional head of the Republic of Ghana and the supreme commander of the Ghana Armed Forces. I am returning to Ghana soon. I followed this up with a cable to all Ghanaian embassies. Wow. Nkrumah was very strong, eh? He was sending cable even after he had been told that he had been overthrown. Okay, he sent the cable as follows to the embassies. Be calm and remain firm at your post. Send all messages and reports to me through the Ghana Embassy Peking, and repeat not through Accra until further notice. Wow. And he continued. As I discussed the news from Ghana with the 22 officials accompanying me, among them Alex Kwesi-Nsaki, the foreign minister, Kwesi Ama, minister of trade, FM Dean, an ambassador extraordinaire in charge of African affairs at the Secretariat, J.E. Bosman, ambassador to the United Kingdom, F.R. Kest, Ghana's permanent representative at the United Nations. I was somewhat disappointed to note their reaction. At a time like this, I would have expected them to show courage and fortitude, but most of them were frightened. Kwesi Saki, for example, developed diarrhea and must have visited the lavatory about 20 times that day. Oh, Kwesi Saki. Oh. Their obvious dismay was in striking contrast to the calmness and courage of the 66 other personnel, the security officers and members of my personal secretariat. These were men. Compared with them, the politicians were old women. Okay. With Alex Kwesi Saki, I will deal with later. Kwesi Ama settled down in London, where it appeared that he had considerable funds of money available to him. The rebel regime, on the basis of this, attempted to have him extradited on the grounds that he has stolen the money in question. His many trials before the English courts exposed at least the falsity of the allegation which these authorities had made. I am glad that he was acquitted, since I am sure that the particular charges made against him were false. Nonetheless, I believe that he brought his misfortune upon himself by failing to take a positive political stand. His various court cases, however, prove the nonsense contained in many of the allegations of corruption against my government. Enoch Okun and Michael Dayanan were old British trained civil servants. They had made their way up through the colonial structure. They had been among my most trusted officials, but they chose to return to Ghana, presumably in the hope that they will be accepted by the counter-revolutionaries. Enoch Okun, as the head of civil service and as the person who knew, therefore, which promotions had been made and why, was treated with leniency and was appointed to be in charge of the State Housing Corporation. Since the new regime did not have any intention to build houses for the people, this was perhaps the appropriate punishment for his desertion. Wow, that's strong language from the Osajifo. Michael Dayanan was not so treated, and much to his surprise, he was thrown into prison. Fred Arkest, after his treachery, returned to his former position at the United Nations, but was eventually removed by the NLC, who could not trust someone who had at least ability. Wow. Nkrumah said the NLC could not trust anybody with ability. Naturally, all of us were anxious about the safety of our families in Ghana. But I suppose the official members of the party were also thinking about their bank accounts and their property. It is said that a man's heart lies with his treasure. But even allowing for the fact that they had more to lose than other personnel, I still find it hard to understand how they could have lost grip of themselves so easily. It was as though they had put their hands up in the first whiff of danger. That is all very interesting. That is all very, very interesting. And that's because of lack of time, we can't read all well. It's captured at the preamble of the book, The Dark Days in Ghana. Is written by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Next week, Tuesday, I'll share a bit more with you in terms of the counter-analysis to the motion of destiny. Then we can deal with it. Let's see whether we have some text messages. I was going to take Ukraine, but we can't. We'll probably have to take it on Thursday. Thursday, we have a big football conversation because the Black Stars are playing Brazil the next day. Do you have text messages for us to close? And so let me start with you, Eunice. What do you have?
So coming from Edu James Prince, Paul never fails. Great presentation. We are always learning, and that is why we will always be here. Kennedy also says that Good Evening Ghana is one of the most reliable sources of good information. God bless all crew members and the host, Sir Adom Ochre. From Emmanuel Brain Boxer, he's watching live from Kentampo, Toronto guest house. He says the Galamsey matter must be carefully dealt with. And then from Ernest Clinton, wow, interesting revelation. Coming from Sammy B, touchscreen journalist and crews, no size, keep on the good work. And then lastly from Daddy Pinsy, this poor guy is always on point unless you want to do propaganda.
Okay, so this one is coming from Jamal Rollins Payaka. He says that, Paul, I don't believe the building of a national cathedral should be the duty of the state. However, even if that is the case, then it shouldn't be a top priority of government at these times of economic peril. God isn't interested in edifices, but rather in the well-being of mankind. Have we finished feeding and providing shelter for the poor? This one is coming from John Bote. He says that it took the UK 30 years to build. With inflation and everything, it cost them around 2 million euros. Our cathedral is costing you around 200 times $400 million, and you are telling the country that is going to IMF for bailout to build it in 4 years. Upon Kwabena Adusi says that history is key. Paul, keep on educating us.
Right. From Obo Nicholas, Kwame was a great man for Ghanaians.
Paul Jr. says, wow, this is factual. The people always think that it was only Dr. Kwame Nkrumah who found independence for Ghana. Always think that, thank God, the factual program in Ghana has revealed the secret. This is from Mark in the USA. He says, Paul, the British monarchy is known as a constitutional monarchy. This means that while the sovereign is head of state, the ability to make and pass legislation resides with an elected parliament. And Yahaya in Wale Wale says, if you are against the monarchy of Britain, then you should be against your speaking of English. Kweku says, with regards to the issue of the National Cathedral, all I can say is time will tell. It's true what the Holy Book says, that righteousness exalts a nation. We can never leave God out in the development of our nation. Jeremiah says, I now understand the source of power and wisdom of the British. They colonized almost 2/3 of the world. Great piece of history, Paul. And General Ortega says, why don't you advocate for a theocratic state, Paul? For your information, the worst form of atrocity after the Holocaust is the slavery around the world. The Western economies developed through slavery.
Okay, so we don't have much time. The debaters want to say shout-outs to their friends, so I'll allow them to do so. Let me start with you, Tiwa.
Okay, I want to say a big shout out to my parents and my sister that's watching right now. And
your parents and your sister are watching right now?
Yes.
Oh, great.
And then to Accra Laboni Leo Club.
Accra Laboni Lions Club.
So yes,
okay.
Lions
Club. Are you the
Club.
president?
No,
the secretary?
I'm just a member.
Just a member, okay.
Yes,
okay.
but as in a making.
Yeah,
so.
all right, great.
Yeah, and then all ladies with vision and style, ladies of Volta Hall, and then my Vandals. I want to say a big thank you to you all.
Oh, Vandals, I'm one of them, yeah.
Oh really?
Oh yes, yeah. Okay, Yolanda.
Okay, so I would like to give a shout out to my baby nephew who has school tomorrow but stayed up to watch his favorite aunt on TV. Also the University of Ghana Debate Society. Most of my opportunities to be on TV have come from you. I'm really grateful. To all my friends, family who stayed up to watch me. Complained a little about time, but still watched regardless. Thank you so much. My lecturers, I know you are watching me, you're supporting me. Thank you.
Okay, so we went how better way to end. Let's get the Queen's montage, the one that has Ghanaian heads of states on it. And that's how we end. And the Tuesday after the burial of, as they say now, Queen Elizabeth II of glorious and happy memory, who was buried on Monday. And that's how we end tonight's edition of the program. Rest in peace. May the conversations continue.